Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here and share some in-depth knowledge of the Santa Barbara residential real estate market. So let's get started here. We're in a seller's market. Prices are up. There's no inventory. Thank you, everybody. Seriously, though, that's pretty much the gist of what I'm going to be talking about. So if you end up falling asleep, just remember those three things. I'm going to do what I'm pretty sure is a first here at the Granada, and I'm going to show a TikTok video on the big screen. And I promise it is relevant to real estate.
Excuse me, is that apple for sale? Yeah, we're about to put it on sale right now, actually. Well, I'm in the market, so tell me about your apple. Why should I buy it? Nice try. Okay, people, here's how this is gonna work. I have an apple here. The highest bidder's going home with this. I want all bids in the next 2 minutes, then we're closing it. Bidding starts at $5.
Feeling pretty confident there, huh? I mean, don't you think...
$10.
He said starting at 5.
15.
Is this a new apple?
Yeah, just listed. I'm pre-qualified. I'll pay cash. I got cash. 20, 30, 40. No, just make it 45.
Is it even worth that?
50. I don't know. Please, this is the 8th apple I've tried to buy.
Could I at least see it up close?
Nope, it's an apple. You know what it is. You either want it or you don't. I'll take it for 100.
What? I'm from California. It's the cheapest apple I've ever seen.
120.
Why did I do that? Why? I don't.
So sounds like that sounds familiar to a lot of you out there. I think the only change is the dude from California would be the dude from the Bay Area coming here. So historically, there are two types of real estate markets. There is the buyer's market, which is what we saw during the financial crisis 2008-2009, where there were more homes for sale than there were buyers in the market. And then there's the seller's market, which is what we're accustomed to seeing nowadays, where there are far more buyers in the market than there are homes for sale. And what happened during the pandemic was a subcategory of the seller's market was created, and my good friend Randy Freed calls that the seller's auction market. And that was beautifully illustrated in that TikTok video, where the listing price of a home ends up being the opening bid, and the sale price ends up going higher, and in many cases it goes much higher. Because in this seller's auction market, the negotiation is no longer between buyer and seller, but rather it's between buyer and all the other buyers that are competing. So I'm sure there are some of you out there who are currently going through this process trying to buy a home, or maybe you know somebody who is, and when a new listing hits the market, the first thing you ask is, how much over the asking price do we have to offer? Going to open houses nowadays looks like this, like a house party on the 6600 block of DP. If the fingers crossed emojis are in your most frequently used, then you're probably trying to buy a house right now, or you're a buyer's agent. And this is my first shot at making a meme, so I think I'll stick to my day job, though. I'm sure there are a number of you out there as well who are tempted by the idea of selling your home, seeing what home prices are these days, and you're getting all these postcards from the pesky realtors in the mail saying, now's the time to sell, and do you know how much your house is worth? But then the reality sinks in, and you realize how competitive it is to be a buyer in this market, so you decide to end up staying put. So how did we end up here in this market? Well, I don't remember a whole lot from my days as an econ major at UCSB, sorry, Professor Rupert, but I do remember the law of supply and demand, and they have an inverse relationship, right? So the higher the supply, the lower the demand, the lower the supply, the higher demand. So let's look at some real life applications of the law of supply and demand. Do we all remember the dark days of the pandemic when we were running out of toilet paper and everybody was lining up in Disneyland-sized lines to get toilet paper? That was a supply and demand issue. There was no toilet paper, people were panic buying, and what happened as a result? We started to see prices for toilet paper jack up. Okay, another application, the used car market. I have a beat up 20-year-old Toyota Tacoma, and people leave me notes on my windshield all the time asking to buy my Tacoma. I think it's actually worth more than what I paid for it at the time. So again, we have very low supply of used cars, very high demand. It ends up raising the prices even above those of home prices. So what about, let's look at the housing market here in Santa Barbara. I think it's important to note that inventory of homes has always been slim here in Santa Barbara. The old saying goes that you have the ocean on one side, the mountains on the other, all the houses are in between. So historically, we've had limited inventory, not a lot of space for new building or new construction. And demand has always been high for Santa Barbara because, well, it looks like this, and it's 70 degrees year-round, and it's beautiful. So now we're going to look at some charts and graphs, because this is an economic forecast after all. Okay, so we'll start with supply or inventory. This graph takes us back to before the pandemic. So this is active listings March. Let's take a look at the green graph 2019. So we see in March of 2019, we had 624 active listings. Now look at March of 2022, 348 active listings. That's about half the amount of inventory that we have now that we had before the pandemic. Yet, as we all know, demand has increased. So what happens as a result of that? Prices skyrocketed. So again, let's take a look back to that green graph pre-pandemic. The median sales price for homes in Santa Barbara was $1,290,000. And then where are we at now in 2022? The median sales price here in Santa Barbara is $2,251,000. I like looking at this graph because this shows us basically an entire real estate cycle. So if we look back to 2005 through 2008, we all know that was the subprime mortgage bubble, topped out around 2008. Median sales price was about $1.2 million. And I remember working in that market, people saying, we'll never see those prices again. We all know what happened after that. Banks like Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns collapsed. And then by 2009, our market was flooded with distressed inventory, short sales, foreclosures, bank-owned properties. So we had all this new inventory, and people were panicking, freaking out. Nobody knew what was happening. We thought the sky was falling. So buyer demand was very limited. So again, high supply, low demand. We see what effect it had on the median sales price. And as we see, we eventually recovered out of that market. But like Peter said, nobody predicted what would happen during the pandemic in 2020. We all know inventory started to dry up, demand increased, and we see what happened with prices there. Okay, so this graph illustrates supply and demand again. This is year over year, 2021 to 2022. Active listings down 26%, new listings down 21%. Again, limited supply, high demand, median list prices up 15%. Okay, so what are some reasons why is inventory so low? Well, for one, we're just not seeing any new construction or new building. Like I mentioned before, in Santa Barbara, you got the ocean on one side, the mountains on the other side. There's just not a lot of space for new construction or new building. Another thing that we're noticing is people who would normally consider putting their homes on the market, they're very intimidated and don't think they can compete with the buyers in the market. So instead of putting their homes on the market, they're deciding to stay put. Maybe they're going to do those improvements on their home. They're going to finally get that ADU built. They're going to build their home office. Maybe they're going to put in the pool. And what effect that has is that's inventory that, again, would have normally come on the market that is no longer coming on the market. I think most of the inventory we're seeing nowadays are people who are either moving out of town, they're trustees who are selling estates for parents who passed away, or divorces. Okay, so we took a look at the supply side. Let's take a look at the demand side. And I think it's important to note that demand was already high before the pandemic. But probably one of the most critical things that affected demand here in our market is that people were allowed to work remotely or work from home. And what that means is that workers were no longer tethered to their physical offices in Silicon Valley or Seattle or Manhattan. They could essentially live and work from anywhere in the world. And maybe they had come to Santa Barbara at one point, fell in love, but now it was actually a reality that they could live here, work here, move here. And so what we started to see was buyers started coming here in droves. I think one of the studies I heard was that about 50% of our buyers are from out of the area right now. So it does beg the question to me, though. You know, these are nice places. I grew up in the Bay Area. I visited Manhattan a bunch. I love it. why go through the struggle of uprooting your life, taking your kids out of school, leaving all your friends, and making this big move to Santa Barbara? So I did a little bit of research, and I found that in the Bay Area, for $1 million, you get a house that was literally just burned down. In 2020, a 2-alarm fire burned this house down. It got multiple offers, sold for $1 million. So that's crazy. Okay, what about in New York? Well, in Brooklyn, for $500,000, you get a 1-bedroom, that's about 300 square foot aluminum tin shed. So when you see things like this, it starts to make sense that, buyers from these areas, they look at Santa Barbara and it looks like the best deal on earth because our real estate prices aren't that crazy to them. And they look at the Santa Barbara lifestyle. You got beaches, you got mountains, you got hiking trails. It's 70 degrees year round. You got convenience to shops and dining. And so again, it just starts to really make sense why there was so much increased buyer demand. I started to think about what are other reasons why we saw this influx of buyer demand. And another thing that came to my mind was there was a couple of pretty well-known people who ended up buying real estate during the pandemic, and their purchases didn't stay secret for too long. So I thought that this put a spotlight on Santa Barbara and maybe created an influx of buyers based on that. So I decided to talk to some agents who work in the luxury high-end market, and they actually didn't think that that was the case. Rather, they think that what it did was it just gave more credibility and validation to our area for people who were already considering making moves here because, again, these are people who could live anywhere in the world, and they decided to move here to Santa Barbara. Okay, so let's look at some real-life examples of sales in 2020. 1558 Marquardt Terrace. This is a home on the west side of Santa Barbara. 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home, just over 1,000 square feet, approximately a quarter-acre lot, listed at $1,195,000. It sold for $1,775,000. That's about 50% over the asking price. They received 29 offers. They accepted an all-cash offer, no contingencies, 10-day close. Okay, now we're going to look at examples of homes that have sold twice during the pandemic. So 6290 Monmouth Ave, this is in Goleta near Lake Los Carneros. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, fairly original condition, about 2,000 square feet, quarter-acre lot, sold in October 2021 for $1,275,000, which I will point out is pretty much in line with what homes in that neighborhood are selling for. So somebody bought it, did a very nice renovation to it, and in April, just about 6 months later, they sold it for $2,625,000. They put it on the market, they got 3 offers, they accepted a cash offer, no contingencies, 10-day close, and ended up selling for about 20% over the asking price. Okay, in the Upper East of Santa Barbara, 2428 Anacapa Street. This is a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home. Again, pretty original condition, almost 2,600 square feet, about a half-acre lot, sold in October of 2020 for $1,975,000. Same group that bought that house on Monmouth bought this house. Did a very nice renovation, sold it in March for $4,650,000. They received 3 offers, accepted a cash offer, no contingencies, basically a slam dunk offer. Okay, let's look at the San Marcan neighborhood, 2921 Serena Road. This was a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath home, about 1,800 square feet, had a little bit of a funky layout. It sold in August of 2019 for below the asking price, if you can believe that, for $912,000. This is back when you could buy a house for under $1 million here. Okay, fast forward to April of this year, it sold for $2,450,000. They did some nice renovations, addressed some of the layout issues. They got 3 offers, and it sold for 25% above the asking price. Okay, and let's look at our friends in Montecito. 851 Buena Vista. This was a modest 7-bedroom, 14-bathroom home consisting of a main house, guest house, and pool house, over 12,000 square feet total on about 2 acres of land. This sold in December 2020 for $13,250,000. Now I'm told that maybe they put $1 million or $2 million into that home, and they just sold it in March for $25 million. Quite a return on investment. Okay, so what are the takeaways here? Well, I think for one, it's very notable that we're noticing that buyers are willing to pay a premium for things that are new, remodeled, chic, move-in condition. They don't want to be bothered with doing any work. They want to move their bags in, unpack, and just be settled, and they will pay a premium for that. The other takeaway, to be a competitive buyer in this market, what do we have to do? Well, what we're seeing is buyers are offering 10 to 30% or even more above the asking price. They're waiving all of their due diligence contingencies, whether they get an inspection report or not. If they're getting a loan, a lot of buyers are waiving the appraisal contingency. And a lot of sellers are asking for a free 30 to 60-day rent back after the close of escrow. So if you want to be competitive, you're going to offer that. Some buyers are even offering an escalation clause, which looks something like this. We will offer $5,000 to $10,000 over the next highest offer that you get. So very much like an eBay type strategy. And the other takeaway, I can't say it enough, we need more inventory. So looking at the Marquardt Terrace example, they received 29 offers. Only one buyer got the home. So that leaves the other 28 buyers out there still looking for a home. So we need 28 more homes just like Marquardt Terrace to fulfill the buyer demand. So WTF? What's the forecast? I'm like Peter, I don't want to forecast because I'm guaranteed to be wrong, so I'm just going to give you some things to keep an eye on. Rising interest rates. This is obviously top of mind for people. I think the Fed just met this morning. So will this push some buyers out of the market? I think what we're seeing now is that instead of buyers exiting the market, they're just readjusting their search criteria. So buyers who were only looking for single-family homes, they're now considering condos and townhouses. Buyers who are only focused on Santa Barbara proper, they're looking in Goleta or Carpinteria now. Okay, Goldman Sachs predicts a recession in 2023. They say it's a 38% chance of recession in 2023. So I think that we eventually will see a recession. I don't know when, I don't know how big or small, but it is part of the normal economic cycle. I think Professor Rupert addressed that. We need more supply, but we can't count on new construction, especially in an area like here, Santa Barbara. We're seeing this happening around the country. We have supply chain issues. The cost of building supplies are high. We have a shortage of workers, of subcontractors. So will out-of-town buyers stop coming here once they get called back into the office? I hear this from a lot of people, a lot of my buyers specifically. I think it's a lot of wishful thinking. Everything that I'm reading says that remote work is here to stay. So I wouldn't count on the out-of-town buyers to come to a stop anytime soon. And will we see prices drop? I think that before we see that, we're going to start to see a leveling off of the market. Maybe we're seeing little signs of it now, where instead of seeing 15 offers, you're going to start seeing 10 offers, then 5 offers, then maybe a listing stays on the market for more than 10 days. So I think we'll see a little bit of that balancing out before we see prices start to drop. Did I bum everyone out in this room? Are they serving drinks upstairs? Thank you, everybody.